Yeah, how are you?
I am well, thank you very much. The sun is shining, so that's a very good thing, right? It's not
Yeah,
yet warm. It's cool today. We've had a couple of cool days, but the weather will warm. And how about for you? For you, the weather is warm.
yeah, it's too hot here in India,
Yes.
in Hyderabad, in South India. Yeah.
So it's good to see you again. I know we've been continuing to correspond.
So that's what I really want to thank you for accepting my invitation again and accepting to be on my show. I got some new audience. I thought to tell about you and your work to my new audience.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, my ongoing condolences about the loss of your mom. I know how special she was to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Arvind. So, can you please introduce yourself to my new audience?
Yes, so I guess, officially Dr. Beverley Freedman. I am an educator with multiple decades of experience. Began my career as a high school teacher, history, geography, economics, into administration, into the Ministry of Education. I've been a provincial school inspector. I've created policy. I was superintendent in the Durham District School Board. At that point, 75,000 kids in 125 schools. I did that job for 10 years. I taught at York University and Ontario Tech, teacher pre-service at the universities, then back to the ministry for a couple of years. And now I largely consult, and what's keeping me active and focused these days, and I figured that's what we would talk about. I continue to do strategic planning, but more and more I'm involved in mentorship. And I thought that mentorship would be a good topic of discussion for today.
So, you are from?
So I'm Toronto. I'm born and bred in Toronto, grounded in Canada. I've done work internationally in Chile, the Dominican Republic, Norway, Belgium, Australia, the United States, but at this point in my career, primarily in Canada. I was in Edmonton doing some work with the school division 2 weeks ago.
Oh, mentorship. So, can you tell in detail about it?
So again, I have a background on what you would call school reviews. So how can you walk into classrooms across a school and pay attention to the learning and begin to weave an understanding of what learning looks like across classrooms? What are the strategies? What are the coherencies? What are the challenges? And so it's like you're weaving a tapestry. And then you do that um, across selected schools in the district or the division, and you get a patterning of what school improvement looks like, what the intended goals and the actionable um, going on learning in the classroom looks like. So the focus isn't actually on teaching, it's on learning. And then based on that and walking, we call them learning walks. So doing learning walks with others in that particular district or division. Sometimes groups of principals in and out of one another's schools, sometimes the school leadership, sometimes teachers, depending on the particular place. And then together we come up with refinements. So we're not trying to change anyone or anything. We know that improvement for kids, for all kids, works best when you have coherent evidence-based practices, and how can you begin to nudge a system along its journey of improvement. And so those are some of the things that I was occupied with lately. And then the issue of mentorship.
So what is your experience with mentorship?
So of course, we all start off being mentees, and then we graduate to mentors. But what most people don't realize is that mentor is a historical figure. So in Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus, when he begins his journey, leaves the education of his son to one of his best friends, Mentor. And he entrusts Mentor to guide and direct his son's education and learning while he's away. So most people don't actually recognize or know that Mentor was a real or historical fictional character, and his actions are where the practice comes from. So as I began my educational career, acquired mentors who sometimes were my bosses, sometimes were colleagues or people who suggested I get in touch with them. And over time, we became friends, and I still retain that. For my journey as a mentor, I would say that began in the Ministry of Education because I was senior. I began to gather people around me who were beginning their career. And currently, I act as a senior mentor for the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, the University of Toronto. And it has a formal mentorship program. About 600 students are involved, and there's probably 50, 60 mentors. And every year we're assigned mentees who are graduate students at OISC, and we are on a journey for a year. Um, for my mentees, we normally connect with one another, sometimes in person, but sometimes, like us, via Teams or Zoom. One of my mentees this year is a teacher in Beijing. So, a 12-hour difference, and that's how we connect. And it's in times of uh, uncertainty, anxiety, um, overwhelming change. Um, One of the things both you and I would agree is that people need a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, some shared understanding. And that's what the mentorship mentee relationship can bring. So it creates a sense of belonging. It's grounded in trust, and it's a journey. And so, for incredibly uncertain times, it is an evidence based practice. It's used formally in business, where you would begin in an organization. And there are differences between a mentor and a coach. A coach is much more formalized and has a much smaller skill set that they work on. There's some very clearly defined goals. Mentorship is much more, for me, relational, besides the sharing of expertise and experiences. And one of the things that I and a colleague of mine do at OISE is we work with other senior mentors in a network, And so we've created our own little network and we're on a learning journey together. So that's kind of what I've been involved in right now.
So what are the advantages of getting a mentor and having a mentorship?
So um, for mentors, sometimes it's assigned, like the program, it's a formalized assigned, like Goisy. And sometimes it's buddies of mine who will say, Bev, I've just come across someone, or it's a relative, and they're asking about, could you speak to them? And um, I'm a good person for that. Number one, because I've had decades of experience. But number two, as you know, I'm a high obsessive. So if you reach out to me, I will reach back out to you. Because for some people, there's not that sense of immediacy about getting back to, and then somehow the conversation or the thought gets dropped. So one of the things I think about being a good mentor is you have to be quite self-regulated and know that there's a schedule, that it's you're reaching out, and and that it's relationship driven. So tonight my husband and I are going out for dinner with one of my past mentees and her husband. They had gotten married in India, they're back, and so we're going out for dinner together. So as I said, in that way the relationship continues.
Oh, you have done multiple roles in your life. You have been into multiple responsibilities. Why, especially mentorship, and why you are more into mentor?
So I think um, there are professions where you feel that um, somehow it's a gift to be. So for me, I'm the older sister of younger brothers, and I think I've been a teacher all my life. So I was lucky. I was a fluent reader by age 4. And in kindergarten, I had my own little reading group. And I just knew I was going to be a teacher virtually all of my life. And so one of the things that drives me and has driven me for most of my life is to do what I can to make things better and to give back. So I do a volunteer work with an organization that works with schools and the ministry in the Dominican Republic, where traditionally the standard of education has not been high to raise those opportunities. And um, for me to absolute big things in education. Number one, to ensure through policy and practices and capacity building and all of those things that as many students as possible graduate high school. And so this has driven me for a very long time. Um, Solidified the first time I went into government and I worked with young men in corrections, which I had no experience with. And I adored them because overwhelmingly they were quite capable of graduating high school. They were high impulse, they were angry, they came from challenging circumstances. All things interfered, including the school system, which let them down, but they were capable of graduating. And Statistics Canada, the research says that if you graduate high school, you'll be healthier, you'll live longer, You'll be more involved in your community. You'll vote. You'll send your kids to kindergarten, and they are more likely to graduate high school. So we're not talking about earnings, we're just talking about common good. So to do that, you have to be able to influence schools, school systems, and then on a larger basis. So that's one of the things that's driven me. The other thing is that we learn together. We're social creatures. I know that you get this because you also, when you interact with people, there's a sharing of stories, and we're gravitated towards that sense of belonging, that sense of connection. And that's what that mentorship mentee relationship allows you. And today, different than other days, it's quite generational. So my mentees are much younger than me and have grown up in a different world. So we negotiate that. It's agentic. So technology is a reality. A decade or so ago, I couldn't have a mentee in Beijing, and with the ease that we don't even think about it anymore. And it's about allowing the mentee. So the journey, the mentor benefits as much as the mentee, but it's the mentee's journey. And we're just there to support and guide and um, offer advice when advice is necessary. So my mentees primarily, though not always, are newish teachers in school, and so one of the conversations is choosing the hills you want to die on. So an issue arises and we deconstruct the issue. And is this a hill you want to die on? Most of the time, of course, it's not. But the mentee is upset, something has happened. So it's being able to offer that stepping back perspective and thinking about other ways that the mentee may choose, because it's all about agency, where they may want to go forward next.
So, is there any particular age or generation that, uh, or I mean, is there any specific age that a human needs mentorship?
Um, I how we've classified, millennials, Gen X. I mean, the differences among in between is greater, but I grew up in an analog world, a world where TV had just begun. And so knowing that the people that I'm mainly working now are um, so immersed in a world of technology and in the classroom, and so um, we have slightly different worldviews, but for most of the people that I'm involved with, people who still were my mentors and still keep in touch with, and my mentees, it's still all about the learner. And how can we ensure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that all students receive a quality education?
What's the difference between a person with mentorship and without mentorship?
I'm sorry?
What is the difference between a person having mentor and a person who don't have a mentor?
Um, Again, that's a very individual basis. I mean, some people are quite independent and are not relationship necessarily driven. I think more and more in our world, we live in a world of teaming. And so people who are most comfortable by themselves are more isolate. I, for me, as someone who's been a mentee and someone who's now a mentor, I think it's an incredibly beneficial um, relationship. Not only the sharing of experience and skills and knowledge, but also that journey that as you're sort of in the beginning stages of your career, you may not know some of the doors you're going to have to go through and open, maybe some of the certification or things you should look for by yourself. And I think that's why in so many corporations, um, mentorship or coaching is actually part of how they've created the structure. And in many ways, Sai, what you're doing with the podcast is a form of mentoring.
So what in I mean how in communication system there is multiple ways and multiple uh, uh, kind of things that anything a subject can be expressed or explained or made it understood. Uh, there are different mediums. One is called teaching, another is called training. Then is there is another thing called uh, giving a mentorship. So there are multiple ways that human actually chosen, uh, which is as profession and can you tell the differences between all these things and why only mentorship and what is the necessity of it for
I mean, I still do, training on a specific. So I think when you're thinking about training, it's very specific and task driven. So, I'll do something on strategic planning or creating surveys or learning walks. So it has a beginning and an ending. In corporations, because that's really your expertise. Corporations look at what are those specific skills in their organization that everyone needs a shared understanding of, and um, whether it's in how to access the technology or perform specific functions or be aware of where the strategic planning is going. Um, as I said, for me, mentorship is more generalized. And because it's relationship driven, I just, there have been all sorts of comparative research around 5 traits that are useful in mutually productive mentoring relationships. And these include competency and context specific skills and knowledge, commitment and initiative. So you have to reach out and maintain that relationship, strong interpersonal skills. And I think people who choose not to get involved in mentoring or mentorship, they may not have those strong interpersonal skills. They're more self driven and absolutely competent in who and what they do, but um, interconnected needs are different. Pro-social, so I think mentors have, and yesterday, I'm on the board of the faculty club of the University of Toronto, and I was there for meetings. So I invited a group of about 20 senior mentors that we've been working with all year, just to come and have a drink and some nibbles and talk. And that sense of people have volunteered their time because they want to be useful. They want to give back. They're motivated to help. And a growth mindset. I think both mentors and mentees have a sense of this is a learning journey. And, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm going to know and do and be more than I am. And recognizing that part of that necessitates um, interpersonal relationships, and that mentorship piece is part of the way you can reach out for that. And I know that people that you've connected with can continue to connect back with you. And so I don't know if when you've reached out to someone, someone has said, oh no, I don't want to talk, I don't want to share, I don't want to talk. I think most people are happy to be involved in that communication. Um, for me, the training piece, and I absolutely enjoy meeting and being in different situations. Um, it's not so much of that connectedness, and it's the connectedness that for me is a benefit of being a volunteer mentor.
So tell us about your experiences with when it comes to mentorship in all your career.
So I'll begin by saying when I started off as a mentee. So uh, I didn't necessarily, when I started, my ambition was to be a provincial school inspector. I figured, like, that's got to be the best job in the world. Not that you're judging people, but just the ability to be able to go into classes and schools and get to know people and to see things. Um, I, and so I talk to people about, if this is what I want to do, what do I have to do to be that? And developed someone who was a mentor who had been in that job. And so often, I guess mentors have experience in the job that you think you want to be or do or moving towards, and they help guide me. And then I became a school inspector and thought, this is great, and sort of thought, but I'm still reasonably young. What comes next? I hadn't at that point thought beyond that's my so again, one of my bosses said to me, Bev, I think you should think about being a superintendent. You need one more course. So I had already two master's degrees, and I needed the specific qualifications. And sometimes for jobs, you need specific qualifications. And so taking the course, inbuilt in the course is they assigned you a mentor. And I heard someone talk about education law. I knew very little about education law. And I thought, I need to know more about that. And I said, I'd like her as my mentor. And she agreed and helped guide me through the process. And we are still friends today. And then when I finished the coursework and stuff, Again, a buddy of mine said, take Pauline, she was director of a school district, out for lunch and tell her what you want and she'll help guide you. So I did. And I'm and I think if you're a mentee, you have to be comfortable reaching out to strangers and say, we really don't know one another, or I've heard, or someone said. And for me, it's always, can we go out for a coffee? Can we go for lunch? And over food, I'm most comfortable. So I did. And I said to her, so Pauline, Shannon, who was my boss, said I should be thinking about this. And so I'm asking you what I need to do more. And she laughed. She said, I have a positioning opening up. It closes in a week. Apply for it. And I'm thinking, no, 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 no. I'm thinking 2, 3 years down the road. But I took her advice and I applied and got the job. And she too became a friend for life. And um, recently I was at a uh, funeral mass for a colleague of mine who was the director of the Catholic board, whose expertise was finance, and again, not an area of expertise for me, but has been wonderfully kind and supportive, and we've remained friends. His wife had just died, and he continues to be a mentor. So anywhere in that journey, you can be both a mentee and a mentor at the same time. It's not an either or. You have to be open and like you have to have strong interpersonal skills and like connecting and meeting and knowing people and if you're naturally curious, and I think of myself as naturally curious, um, it's a way of not only you connecting, but people will call or email me and say, Bev, this is the situation that's occurred, and I may or may not know the answer, but I have extensive networks, and someone in my network can be helpful. And so that's also, I think, part of the job is connecting people with other people.
Do you have examples in the history of humanity about mentorship?
I think, well, going back to the Iliad, and they just found a mummy in Egypt with a fragment of the Iliad in his or her tomb. So this goes back a long, long time. But I think from the time we were hunters and gatherers, we had mentors, and I do a little bit of work with our First Nation peoples, and they were um, their history was oral history, so there wasn't written, and you learned your socialization, you learned the sacredness of the land, you learned um, the specific skills that you needed by observing and interacting, and that's a form of mentorship. So it's probably been a human trait forever.
So, can you tell your online presence to my podcast listeners so that they can see the work that you're doing, can able to
Yes,
follow
so
your work?
I had included that to you, my LinkedIn account and my X account and my Feathers account. I think I have sent
Can
to
you?
you. And if people want to reach out to me, absolutely. And one of the wonders for me of that explosion of digital technology is you can keep in touch with colleagues around the world. So I actually remember being in a school when a parent faxed something with a daisy chain printer from Hong Kong, and when it spewed out of the fax machine, and I thought, like like it can't get any better than this, like this is it. And now, you look at your watch, and your watch is communicating globally, and that's something, Sai, that you've done a very good job in connecting with and reaching out and sharing on your podcast.
So, have you missed anything saying my audience about mentorship?
No, I don't think so. I think that people who are listening should think of their own experiences and needs and where they are on their journey. Um, are there people that they can be supportive of and act as a mentor? Are there people they should reach out to? And it's sometimes a little scary and risk taking to approach someone who doesn't really know you and to say, um, you have things of value that would help me. Can I reach out to you? Because that's taking a risk. But for me, honestly, Sai, I think it's a risk worth taking. And I think most people, even people who are incredibly busy, do want to be helpful. And if it wasn't such a positive relationship, both for the mentee and the mentor, then corporations wouldn't make it part of their strategies as they're onboarding and bringing people through the organization. So I remain a huge fan.
At last, what's your observation about my work?
Yeah, and isn't that, really what you do as you explore different aspects in your podcast is you're both learning and sharing. So you're acting as a mentee and as a mentor in all of the podcasts. I am doing an excellent job.
So, what is the change that you observed from our previous podcast interview and now? It's been quite
Uh,
long.
uh, Confidence, and I think the questions are more thoughtful.
So, right now I'm interviewing the mainly the leadership in the technology companies, the chief executive officers, and business owners, founders, also experts like you. Uh, and also, I'm interviewing experts from all industries and all countries, and who are coming from all backgrounds. So me being a technologist, done masters in software engineering. Right now, I'm working as a DevOps engineer for a London company. That's my full-time role. Apart from that, I'm doing this conversations with very talented, very highly skilled, and high IQ people in order to educate the world and make the world a better place to live for the next generation. So I remember last time when we spoke, you said me. I still remember those words. I continued keeping that words in every interview that I did. Was uh, You complimented me saying that if you are in the generation that people like me who are educating the next generation in a positive way, giving this kind of an positive energy and positive thoughts and creating a positive environment, and we'll be very proud to be in that generation. And we are so similarly you have said this. So now, I have done more than what I have done before. Now I have done more. So I have more to come. Very high qualified people and highly, I mean, they have their own impact on the planet in their
So
own way.
maybe one of the next steps for you, Sai, is to think across the interviews and what are the takeaways and the learnings. So from seeing and speaking to as many different people as you have, what are the key pieces that stand out for you? And it could be a PhD thesis or it could be a blog, but it's that next step.
A book is going to come.
Yeah.
I'm going to I'm going to come with a book because already a author from a United States have shown me that interest, and I need some more experience. Maybe 200 or 300 interviews I'll do then, and I will come up with a very diversified and a collection of different experiences. So at last, how this collection of different kind of experiences is going to be helpful for me. As you said, this is a kind of a mentorship, and I'm being a mentee or mentor. So, how these conversations are going to be helpful for me in my career and in my future?
Well, you are naturally social and curious. So, I mean, the qualities that they found in the meta-analysis, you have all of those skills already. And for you, it's now reflecting on, you know, what have you learned? What are the characteristics? What are the things that you're seeing because you're uniquely placed, because you've had a broader experience, exposure, and expertise now that you can give back and share. And I think that next journey is a very exciting journey.
So expensive and very valuable words. Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to getting words from you again, and this motivates me. This makes me do more. It drives me more to do more quality and more quality interviews and more. I mean more educated videos. So. Uh, uh, can you spell your online presence to my podcast listeners for listening this on audio?
I'll do that again, absolutely. And the other thing is, I think for you and I is that we genuinely like each other and respect each other, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, that comes naturally.
you know,
So
absolutely.
can you spell it? Can you spell it? Your online presence?
I'd I can send you the link. Um, so look to leaders is what I am on Feathers and X, and LinkedIn I'd have to look at whatever that is. I teach CA is my website, but if people did a search for Beverley Freedman, Beverley Freedman, they will come up with my website. So I'm easily found.
So that is here, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people who will be following you and learning from you. And keep doing the great work, keep inspiring, keep making the next generation better with your mentorship and with your work. It's so valuable, and thank you again for your for the opportunity.
And thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Now, can I put this conversation on my podcast with your permission?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you again. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.